So the reason why there's two parts to how Terence Crawford deals with pressure is because depending on the type of pressure it is, it's going to make him react in different ways. So Avanesian was walking him down. Terence Crawford was standing in front of him. Terence Crawford seemed to have much respect for what Avanesian was doing, so he wasn't really moving that much. But with Sean Porter, you can see in round one, Sean Porter going to come out, blitz him, and Crawford's going to get backed up against the ropes. So it's a completely different type of reaction, a completely different type of fight that Terence Crawford's fighting. So when Porter's blitzing in, exploding into range with an attack, Crawford has to react accordingly. He can't stand there like how he did with Avanesian.
There's a distinct work rate pattern to Terence Crawford.
That's going to connect to Spence because Spence is going to do some walking down and he's going to do some exploding in behind the jab, stepping in behind the jab and stuff like that. And Crawford's going to react differently according to the type of pressure Spence is putting on. I always say the first round often tells a lot of the story for how the rest of the fight is going to go. So when he gets caught on the ropes here, he starts trying to laterally escape, trying to juke Porter out a little bit, trying to change directions to make him think one way so he can go the other. And then he gets cornered. He realizes he's cornered. He tries to respond. Porter corners him, lands a little bit of a combo, and then he wraps him up. But the important part is what happens at the end. Clinches up and then reverses position. I'll show more examples of that, but when he gets caught up on the ropes, there's a couple options there, but usually he's going to try and clinch up. At least with Porter, that's what he did. Again, look at where he starts and then look at where he ends. His back is now to the center of the ring, meaning that when he wants to back up, he has room to move. And that time he circled around as the referee was breaking it up. And the question is, will this work with Spence? I don't think it'll work as well with Spence. I think he won't get away with this as much with Spence because Spence is known for getting out of clinches and working. And so Crawford's either going to have to change up his strategy with clinching or be willing to fight on the inside more and change up the way he reacts and tries to control Spence more, because Spence isn't going to let him get that type of clinch off that often. Another big difference is that somebody that can step into or explode into range with good shots and that's going to blitz him. That's the word I use. That's going to blitz him, is that he's going to throw his combinations and make sure that he gets out of range after he throws his combinations.
Dynamic fight early on. Fascinating fight. Porter sneaks in to 60. Good combination. Left hand to the body again and again.
With this fight in particular, this fight is a lot slower paced than Porter's fights usually are. And it's because of small moments like this. That threat to back up Porter, slow him down. Again, backing him up. In this fight, surprisingly, if you watch it, Crawford's backing up Porter a lot more than you may first realize. Or that Porter's used to being backed up, really. And so, like, in this fight in particular, he was able to control the pace with threats. And so it's the threat of damage and the feints from Terence Crawford and stuff like that that keep the opponent at bay and make the opponent fight at his pace. And I often talk about earning respect, meaning that Crawford has to do damage to Spence to make Spence slow down and not fight at Spence's pace. Because if Spence is fighting at his pace, Crawford can't keep up with that. And so Crawford's going to have to do something to make Errol react to everything Crawford's doing so Crawford can start bringing the fight to where he needs it to be. And in a competitive fight, empty threats don't work. There has to be some sort of action to back him up. And so the reason why Crawford was able to push Porter back and threaten Porter, make him slow down, is because he was actually countering him off the back foot when Porter was coming in.
To the urgency that I was talking about, that Sean Porter.
4 rounds, 39-37, Porter.
Asking those questions until it has more glaring answers or more glaring.
Whenever Porter was making repetitive center line entries with like a 1-2 or a 2-1 or whatever, Terence Crawford would hit him with a check hook or graze him with a check hook and step around.
Good action here. Collected and sticking. Hands.
But Crawford is having issues trying to slow down Porter. Hoping that
A couple notes. I often say, I said this for Spence, Not all punches have the purpose of doing damage. Sometimes a punch is a setup for something else. Sometimes a punch is a way to escape or put yourself in a better position. So with Crawford, the check hook doesn't necessarily have to land. It misses in some of these clips, but it's still accomplishing the purpose of getting them out of bad positions and putting them in good positions. And then the other thing is that this may not work as well for a southpaw. This was working particularly well for Porter and getting Crawford the way out of a lot of Porter's offense, but it may not work as well for Spence. So earlier when I was talking about the clinch, I was talking about the possibility of it becoming an inside fight. And so here's some examples of Shawn Porter denying the clinch and turning it into an inside fight where they're getting some even exchanges on each other.
Porter just able to get away from the uppercut. Good exchange on the in.
Good shot right there for Porter, but Porter would always do just enough to kind of eke out the...
At the uppercuts from Crawford. Infighting from...
Another strategy he uses when he's on the ropes to avoid damage. So earlier was the clinch. Here's him pivoting and using his feet to escape.
Southpaw stance of Crawford. Good eye, Tim. Crawford getting your hand.
I always talk about the importance of mixing up your entries and not being repetitive with the way you enter in the punching range, whether that be with your footwork or whether that be with feints or whether that be with punches. So Shawn Porter found a lot of success when he would mix up the types of shots he was throwing and while he was blitzing in the range.
25 to 20 Porter.
So there he goes low, act like it's a left hook to the body. Crawford pulls the right hand down, left hook comes up top.
That's Crawford getting your...
And there he used foot feints to disguise his entry. A note, in round 3 and 4, and past that, you start to see Crawford settle down and stand in front of Porter more. So early on, he's springy, bouncy, reactive, and jumping back a lot. But then after round 3 and 4, he starts to get more comfortable standing in front of Porter. He's still jumping back a lot more than how he was in the Avanesian fight, but he does settle down. On the ending note, I just want to talk about maybe the mental aspect of why Crawford's fighting the way he's fighting in the Avanesian and Porter fight. So here, in the middle of the ring, he's gonna stand in front of Porter, put his high guard up, and he pushes him back and starts smiling.
Terence smiles at him and
Then he does it again. And so this is just speculation, but it's like, it doesn't seem like he was taking the Porter or Avanesian fight, especially the Avanesian fight, that super serious. With the Porter fight, you could argue it was more mind games than it was him not taking it serious, like he was trying to get in Porter's head. But it's like, maybe that influences a lot of the way he was fighting, because like I said earlier, if you watch this fight, he's on the front foot a lot more than you would expect. He's pushing Porter back a lot more than you would expect. And so in this particular fight, Porter's putting pressure on him. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be the type of pressure that Spencer's going to be putting on him. I think Spencer's going to be in his face more. I think Crawford's going to have a lot more respect for Spence. And I think if he don't have the respect, Spencer's going to earn it. And so I think both the Avanesian and Porter fight aren't necessarily the best illustrations of how Spence is going to step to him and how Spence is going to push the pace. And so it'd be interesting to see how Crawford responds to a different kind of pressure, because he's never seen that kind of pressure before. Immortality Serum out.
How can I die if I'm immortal? Monster in my eyes, I'm immoral. I ain't got no time to be cordial. Ripping up shit, I'm making big decisions. I'm feeling fire and important. Lightning striking and torching all of